I'm live. Hello, my name is Jamie Sands, and I'm going to read to you from my book, The Other Side of the Mirror. This is an urban fantasy. It is set in Auckland, New Zealand, which is where I live, and it has two main characters. You're not going to meet either of them in this prologue. Prologue is setting the scene for the mystery. So I'm going to read another chapter another day, and then you will meet the main characters. They are Detective Jack Duarte and Detective Piper Gage. Um, Jack's kind of like the Mulder of her police department. Weird cases go to her, and she has to solve them. So here's the first bit, the prologue of The Other Side of the Mirror. Daniel took the path from the road to his grandmother's house. His eyes were on his phone. He knew this route so well he didn't need to pay much attention to his feet. He rang the doorbell, and flicked off another message to his boyfriend Joe. Bae, miss you so much. He waited a few minutes. The door didn't open, so he sent a couple of emojis, saw the three dots bouncing as Joe typed his response. Miss you too, XOXO. He smiled, took a selfie of the smile, and sent it back. Daniel loved posting selfies, but they were curated to make him look a bit tougher, a bit edgier. Joe got the smiles. Only Joe, and under threat of severe pain if he ever shared them with anyone. Daniel pocketed his phone and knocked on the door. Had the doorbell actually sounded? Couldn't be broken. It could be broken. He couldn't remember hearing the chime, but maybe he'd ignored it. He peered in the window beside the door. No sign of her approaching. He sighed. He'd have to let himself in. Gran would tease him about being young and impatient or something like that. He cupped his hands to peer through the window again. Something was wrong. He couldn't see anything, only the empty living room. A cup sat by her usual chair. The newspaper was folded up to show the crossword. Her pen sat on top of the paper like she'd been sitting there and had meant to come back. Maybe she'd gone out. But she had known that he was coming over, and she always made sure to be home. She'd even texted a couple of hours ago. She'd sent it while he'd been in his last lecture of the day. He reached for the key she kept hidden up on top of the window frame next to the door. He had to go up on the tiptoes of his battered black Chuck Taylors and stretch, but he found it. Damn tall grandmother. He stuck the key into the lock and opened the door. Gran, it's Daniel. He moved into the house. He glanced at the row of hooks on the left. The plaque on top read Happy Home, and he recognized her keys by the best grandma key ring he'd given her when he was 10. She hadn't gone out. You in the bathroom? The house was silent, but there was a smell, something burning. He went into the kitchen. Granny, you okay? The kitchen was empty. He switched the oven off, opened the door, and inside was a batch of somethings. Once cookies, but they'd gone a bit black around the edges. His stomach dropped away unpleasantly. No way would Gran walk out on cookies baking. She prided herself on having fresh baking when company came around. Ever since she'd retired, she'd been passionate about baking. He pulled out his phone and turned around, looking closer at the kitchen. Yeah, definitely empty. The baking dishes were half done in the sink, the water murky. He stuck a finger into the dishwater. It wasn't entirely cold. His stomach knotted himself. Fuck had happened. The kitchen was pristine usually, carefully organized with everything in its place. If there were unfinished dishes, then she'd been interrupted. Gran? His throat was tight and it made his voice sound strained. He checked the rest of the house. She wasn't in the bathroom, not in the bedroom, not in the tidy, well-organized garage, not in her little energy-efficient car, not in the laundry room, not in the guest bedroom. Gran! He opened the back door and checked the yard. The beds of vegetables and carefully tended roses were the same as he had seen them last. The bench he had been meaning to paint sat under the apple tree, empty. His phone buzzed in his hand. He looked at it, but it was another message from Joe. No time for that. He dialed the emergency number, slammed the phone to his ear, going back inside to do another patrol, checking inside cupboards and closets just in case. Hello, I need the police. My Gran's missing. Certainly. What's your name? Daniel Armstrong. The address is 895 Moana Ave, One Tree Hill. Please, I don't know where she is. He poked his head into the bedroom again and frowned. There was something there he hadn't noticed before, or that hadn't been there before. I understand. We'll help you. Please stay on the line and let us know when you last saw her. He moved into the bedroom and looked at the bed. There was an indentation on the perfectly made covers, like someone had recently been having a lie down. In the middle of the indentation was a yellowed piece of paper, and there was something written on it. The hairs on the back of his neck rose, but he couldn't resist the urge to know what the paper said. What? He breathed, not even thinking about the voice on the other end of the phone. What did you say? Daniel, please, can you tell me when you last saw your grandmother and what her name is? He let his hand fall to his side, his phone held loosely. The paper read, "A debt is paid." Was really tempting just to end the stream there, like super dramatic. Oh. Anyway, The Other Side of the Mirror. It is available online everywhere you can get good books. It is on Amazon, Kobo, Nook, everywhere. Barnes & Noble, Google Play, I think. It's all over the place. I will read chapter 1 at some stage. I'm not sure when. And I'm also going to come back and read the second chapter of Overviews and Occultism at some point. Both of these books have sequels that I've written this year. Other Side of the Mirror sequel is with my publisher at the moment, so it'll be a few months off. And Overviews and Occultism sequel, Monsters and Manuscripts, I've just finished this morning. So at some point that will be out as well. It's got to go through some edits and things, obviously. So stay tuned for more urban fantasy, and I might read some other stuff at some point as well. Who knows? This has been a book reading.